Hey everybody, it's John with National Sports Entertainment, and I wanted to go into the playoffs as far as who I think is going to win this year and why I think that they're going to win. Oops, sorry, I keep clicking on the wrong one. So obviously, I've been doing hundreds and hundreds of bets since the beginning, and if you've been following, then you know where we stand. Just because we did a live video the other day and we had a good bit of people that were new, I decided to essentially run just starting with the first sequence for new people in the Discord for the Sunday games. And so obviously it's only been 2 days. And already in there, just based off of that, it's looking good. And I wanted to recap all of that because I know a lot of people have been tailing as of late. So I wanted to recap the NBA games, which I'll go into tomorrow morning, and go into the money management aspect. I know it's boring, but it really does make a difference. But what I wanted to go into is the playoffs and the narratives. And again, I think a lot of these games just kind of give themselves away. So for the playoffs, the first one that jumps at me right here is the Raiders, because I said multiple times I noticed my sports book was giving the Raiders top, they were up there back when they were 3-7, ahead of teams that had more wins than them. The Browns, I remember they were ahead of the Jags, they were ahead of the Broncos, they were about even with Miami. That's how good they had the Raiders, and it hasn't changed. So Vegas knows something. On top of that, they kept pushing on Thursday, when last Thursday during the game, they kept pushing how this Thursday the Raiders play, and they had 2 comeback wins in a row, and then sure enough, they won that week too. So now they're coming off 3 straight wins, or 3 and 4 weeks, something in that regard. They're pushing them as like a slow comeback. So obviously they're playing the Rams. I think they win that game. The question is, do they cover? And again, the line should kind of give it away. The Seahawks just played this team and was giving less points, or I'm sorry, a half more. I think it was between 5.5 and 6.5. So Vegas is telling us the Raiders are as good as the Seahawks, which, I think on paper they are, but it just doesn't really add up if you think about it. So I do like the Raiders. Now, going into the playoffs in general, obviously at the beginning of the season, if you saw my last video, my only other playoff video, and I mean, I put the video out in, I'd say, week 5 or 6, but my since I had began watching the season, my entire thought process was Jimmy G comeback story and Baltimore, because Buffalo and Kansas City are too obvious in the AFC. So while I haven't budged at all from the NFC, I've budged. But Ravens, I'm a lot more open to not making it now, just based off how they've been portrayed. And I'm not completely sure if they want Lamar to be there's so many talented guys. I don't think they're just going to give Lamar it this year. I thought they might. I thought he paid his dues, but I'm thinking it might be just your simple Allen Mahomes, because again, if it's the Jimmy G comeback story, it makes more sense in my opinion for him to beat a Mahomes who he lost to, or an Allen, just a quarterback that people consider an MVP quarterback. So that's what I would say is I think Niners Chiefs or Niners Bills is looking a lot more likely than I thought before. And as far as who I have getting in the playoffs, not much has changed. I don't think the entire AFC East gets in. Just looking at how things went last week, it just made the path a lot tougher. So I had the NFC East getting in, and in my original predictions, the AFC East got into, but you can see I don't have the Patriots getting in now. I think the Bengals do get in for sure. They just need them in the playoffs, and Burrow kind of gave away the script. So here, I think I'm very confident with these 7. The only one that would be interchangeable would be if the Jets or Dolphins, but I think it would be the Jets, were to get flipped by the Vegas Raiders. But I think they make a late season run but don't quite get in the playoffs, kind of like the Packers. And on this end, nothing's really changed, as you can see. Washington and the Giants drew, so not much change there. Not much change with the Vikings or not any of these teams. So I think the Bucs wind up getting in by means of a horrible division. But as far as the playoffs themselves, like this kind of shows how they would set themselves up, and I do believe what's going to happen is Jimmy G is going to. So they say he's got 7-8 weeks to recover now, and we're going into week 14. So 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, right? Then you got the wild card divisional. Then you have, so right around that time, before the championship, he'd be coming back. And then even if he didn't, you have the Pro Bowl. He'd be ready for the Super Bowl, but I think it makes sense that Tom Brady probably beats a team like the Eagles. I'll have to read that entire comment, but I'll definitely answer that in a minute. I just obviously can't now. I technically can, but it doesn't show me the whole comment until I click on it. But here in my opinion, Bucks, it makes sense that he beats a young quarterback that's not quite paid his dues yet. So say Brady beats like Hurts, right? Beats the Eagles, or something to that effect. Or if he's playing the Giants, say the Giants get a different seed, and he beats the Giants. Just so you know, I have the Cowboys getting the first seed. I could be wrong, but either way, maybe he beats Dak. I don't think he beats Dak that early, but I think Brady beats a quarterback, looks pretty legitimate, and then it would explain him meeting Jimmy G in the championship. Or I can't imagine they'd have him return to the divisional round. They might. But I think, you got to have Tom versus Jimmy G. I can't see that match happening and Jimmy G on the bench. Then I think we see something like maybe Commanders-Giants. It's showing, obviously, Commanders-Niners. I think if this were to line up the way it did, I think, you see how the NFC is lined up. I think since the Bucs would technically be an upset over the Eagles, I think most likely the Niners and Vikings would both win as well. Oh, I know. In my opinion, Niners definitely win. And then we see something like Cowboys, Vikings, and Niners, Bucks in the championship. And I think the Cowboys would advance the divisional. I think the Cowboys would advance over the Vikings. So for me, the Cowboys are my backup team. Just because they are pushing them hard, but I know a lot of people think Jerry Jones can't do it. But just as far as representing, not that they'd win, but representing going into the NFC Championship, I like the Cowboys more than the Vikings. I think the Vikings are a complete red herring, as I think the Eagles are. So to me, the Jimmy G comeback story is still in effect on the other side, and the NFC Beast would still work. On the other side, I think the Titans, we all know, are never going to do it. Burrow could get there again, but I think when he gets there again, he's going to win. And he could win. I think it's going to be the NFC again this year that wins. People are saying Miami. I don't think they're going to do it. I think they're trying to push how Tua is really good at home, not as much on the road. Obviously, a Super Bowl game wouldn't be at home, and most playoff games he played wouldn't be at home. Like I said before, Lamar, I'm not. He was my preseason pick to win it all because I'll tell you the reason I liked them mostly. It was mostly the fact that Tony Siragusa he died or whatever at 55, and there was a lot of. I made a video on Tony Siragusa if you want to look at it. Jalen Ferguson died, so I thought they were sacrifices, and maybe it was going to be the Ravens' year. So that was the reason I went with them. But looking at the narratives, the Jimmy G comeback story, and playing the Ravens makes sense. So they're still kind of my pick. I haven't completely abandoned them, but I do like the idea of him beating a really good team, which would be obviously the Chiefs or the Bills, and it would put Pat in the Super Bowl another time, which they want to do, just like Brady. They want to get him in the Super Bowl. So there's a lot of intriguing matchups. Jets, I'm fading coin flip guy. I don't think they get to the championship. I think they get bumped in the first round if they get in. Titans might make it interesting. I could see the Bengals getting bumped early, to be honest. But to me, it makes more sense like something like the Bengals would win, and I think the Ravens and Bills would win or something to that effect. And then, of course, in the AFC, the Chiefs are the first seed, and then we might get one upset, so it winds up being like Ravens versus Bills or Ravens versus Chiefs. But if they just rewrite the script they always wrote, then we're going to see Mahomes versus Allen again. I know it was technically Burrow's last year, but I think, the rivalry is Mahomes versus Allen. No matter how much they want to sell people on Burrow as a third guy in that rivalry, he's the next tier under, Allen Mahomes. So that is who I like. It's similar to my last, but I wanted to go into more detail who I like getting in and basically how I think the playoffs will unfold. I think, again, NFC East is going to be a big focus, how good their division gets in. The reason I like the Washington as well is because a few weeks back, I brought this up in my Discord before they beat the Eagles. Snyder said I might be ready to finally make some negotiations, and I took that as, okay, he's saying he wants some stuff, and he's also got dirt on all these owners, and he said I might sell the team now. So I'm thinking he's saying, all right, fine, just like he changed the name, I'll cave, but I want to be in the playoffs or something to that effect. So that's why they're pushing this NFC Beast narrative and Heineke and all these different things. So I don't know, Washington seems to have went from a team between the guy getting carjacked, Heineke, all these different kind of feel good stories. They seem to have went from a team nobody really cared about to a team that I could see people rooting for as an underdog. So I still like the entire NFC East to get in. And like I said, I think it's something like Cowboys, Vikings in the champion or in the divisional, and I think the Cowboys win, and I think the Niners knock off the Bucks after the Bucks and Niners knock off their opponents. Jones, I think he gets knocked out in the first round. The Giants, if they make it in, they could be out for the Seahawks. I just believe the NFC Beast narrative. It could happen in the AFC East. I just think it makes it a very boring playoffs. I don't think that many people want to see the Titans, Jets, and Patriots. I can understand putting one or two boring teams in, but to me that wouldn't work. Dolphins are way more explosive. That's why I have them in over the Jets. I have them winning that last game of the season, which is convenient. But I still think it basically is going to be Chiefs, Bills, and on the other side, it's going to be Vikings, Cowboys. Not that the Eagles are going to lose a bunch of games. I know it looks like that because I have them as a 5th seed. It's just that I think the Niners. Now the Niners, don't forget, this thing I set up before Jimmy got hurt, because this hasn't changed, which is pretty cool because it's actually still pretty accurate. I set it up when I did it back in week 5 or 6. I think I changed one team. I think I had the originally, I think it was the Giants were 6 and the Commanders were 7 or something like that. But my point is, it's essentially a lot of our picks have been hitting. So the simulator I set up is still pretty accurate. But yeah, I do think they're pushing the NFC East a little more than the AFC East. And the Patriots would have a tough time to get in anyway. For them to get in, it would just take a lot of unrealistic things to happen. And they would have had them beat the Vikings if that's the case, or the Bills. So the fact that they didn't, I think they're really trying to show Burrow, because now you got Burrow, Tua, Lamar, you got Derrick Henry. That's who people watch. Josh Allen, Mahomes, and Jets. We're gonna see what they do. I think the Jets get in, and by then Flacco's in, so maybe they could. In this scenario, they wouldn't meet the Bills. But say they flipped with the Dolphins, they would meet the Ravens. That would be very interesting. Flacco versus his former team. And then on this end, the NFC end, I think we're going to have Jimmy versus former mentor. So to me, a lot of it lines up. And these might not be the exact seedings. And of course, not all these teams might get in. I do think we got basically every game but one. I think we're wrong on maybe one of these. So maybe Seattle flips the Giants or the Chargers flip the Jets, but outside of that, I think every other one of these teams gets in the playoffs, and I think this is about where the seeding looks like. Maybe the Eagles finish a little better, maybe they don't forget the Bucks are going to get a 4 seed no matter what. So there's not much you can do if you don't win the division. So that's another interesting thing. So I think it'll be very, in my opinion, revealing these next couple weeks, and then we can play around. By the way, I forgot we could do this. So we can go ahead and take who we think is going to win. This is just what I personally think will happen. This would be a one big upset, and then 2 what you would expect. I think the Bucks would be an upset, even though they'd technically be at home. I don't think people would consider them a team that should beat the Eagles. And then on this end, like I said, I think they're going to need to have the Jets and Ravens advance. That would be interesting. And I think they will just be boring and go with the Bengals. So you see what that sets up. So I have it flipped. So just kind of flip this if you can. But maybe it's not. I have the Ravens playing the Jets. So obviously that would require the Jets flipping the Dolphins as far as seeding. But either way, I do have the something up to this effect happening. And again, it could definitely be Allen, Mahomes again. I just think it's going to be Allen. I'm going to go with Mahomes and Lamar because those are the two teams that San Francisco, if you remember, had played against. So I think it'd be interesting that it's both of them. And then Ravens, Chiefs, who's it going to be? I think it would, for now, I'm going to go ahead and just stick with my initial prediction. Why change it? That's what I have. Then Niners, and I believe they would win this time. So that's my prediction. I thought this was a cool way of showing you guys, and we can go into the more in detail. A lot of people want me to go into specific teams, like how you think the Jags are going to fare next year. I could certainly start doing that. I also like getting picks out for people, recaps, all the narratives, and there's only so much I could put out. So I just try and get out. A lot of people have been wanting to see NFL, a simulation kind of type of deal. What I think is going to happen, the narratives, and this is kind of what I see happening. And another fun fact: if Michigan does happen to do it for college, you would have the Harbros both winning. So there's a lot of things in line with the sacrifices on Baltimore. That's why I'm still edging them to get in there. All these different things. It is funny because in my scenario, it's 33. Both of the teams are 3 seeds. That's definitely something the NFL would do. But yeah, let me know what you think. I think Jimmy G returns just in time. And it was interesting Lamar got injured in the same week. It wasn't as bad as Jimmy's, but just interesting. So yeah, I'm curious what you guys think. And if you want me to do a specific division or a specific player or whatever it may be, or even something from the past, I'm always down to look into it and put something out. So take care, everybody, and maybe this will be some future bets and happy earnings.